Salvete discipuli et discipuli. Today, we are going to talk about the way in which you will be evaluated and assessed in my course. So, your learning target or destinatum, which means target, objective, or destination in Latin, is to explain the how and why of evaluation and assessment in Latin, because my system is a bit different. So let's explore. First, there are some big ideas which I need to introduce you to. These are beliefs I have about learning, and I hope you will share them with me, or at least think about them. Food for thought. 1. You should be assessed upon your knowledge and the growth of that knowledge, not points or a one-time score. 2. Learning is a journey. Sometimes it takes multiple attempts to learn a topic or a skill, and assessing someone on their first try and leaving that score or grade there permanently simply isn't fair to, again, the growth of their knowledge that may occur later. 3. We should always strive to learn deeply and to think critically, because that's when the true learning happens. So, let's speed this up now that you've had a minute to think about my big ideas. Overview. So, what is the evaluation like in general? What will your gradebook look like? Your gradebook will be divided into 4 categories. Grammar and translation, communication or comprehension is how it may be labeled, and vocabulary, culture and history, and the habits of learning. I have given these scores, which I think are appropriate to showing the knowledge that you are supposed to gain in the course and your mastery thereof. If it were up to me, I wouldn't be giving you any percentages, but instead long letters of written feedback about what you learned at different intervals and where I thought you could go forward. However, that's just not logistically possible, and for my own sanity, we're not going to do it that way, and, well, I'm pretty sure the schools won't let me do that either. So your gradebook is divided into these categories. 35% going to grammar and translation, because we want to be able to put the language together and pull it apart and think about it and understand it, how it fits, how it's working, and then make sense of it. And the way we show that is translation. Communication, or I might call it comprehension, has to do with the way that we're interpreting the information overall, and sometimes in detailed ways, depending on the nuances of the passage. But it goes into interpretation, right? And being able to express ourselves and being able to take in expressions and understand them. And vocabulary is a large part of that. This is all very important as well. So 30% goes there. So 65% of your grade is actually based upon the skills that you attain within the language. Makes sense. You are in a Latin course. I'm going to score you or assess you on your ability to read and write and speak and listen to some extent Latin. Culture and history. While this is mostly a language course, it is very, very important, and I think as far as long-term understanding and learning goes, that we don't just look at the language. Language is not isolated. Language is built by the people who speak it, the people who write it, the people who are reading it, the people who are living it. And in this case, we're talking about the ancient Romans and people for centuries after them. So we're going to be looking at different cultural and historical aspects. Most of this work, however, will be done in English. So therefore, you're looking at 20% of your grade. Habits of learning. That category is so very important as well, though a smaller percentage in the gradebook, since it really doesn't have to do anything with Latin itself, right? And if a grade is supposed to represent what you understand about the topic, then we can't assign it as large of a percentage as other things. However, I consider habits of learning very important, so I am including it at 15% for you. Your habits of learning include things like engagement and participation in class, quality of work and your accountability for your work. Are you turning it in on time and in the way indicated, following instructions? So beyond not having typical categories like homework or test in the gradebook, how else does my grading system work? What else is different for your Latin class? Well, really, I divide work whenever we're in a unit in my head into two categories. One is work designed to aid learning. The other is work designed to test learning. Work designed to aid learning would be anything that you do to practice the material, and those are usually the beginning kind of assignments and games and things that we'll do. However, they can occur at the end as review, and they should occur to some extent throughout the chapter. You should continue to practice throughout a unit of study and learn and grow. These things I'm taking up for completion and quality and accountability, really, because I will not, no credit is given. This is very important. No credit will be given for late or missing work. These things should be done in a timely manner. They will be going under the habits of learning category. Because I am going to assess them from time to time, but I will be looking at your accountability. Were they turned in on time? I will be looking at the quality. I will be looking for your honest efforts to learn here. And in theory, all of those assignments should support very directly your assessments, the things that I'm testing to see if you've actually learned the material. So these things will be like formal quizzes or projects or discussions, essays. Those are the kinds of things that I will test for understanding and accuracy. Okay, so your practice work, these things that you're doing to help you learn and understand the material throughout the unit, I don't want to test you for accuracy. I want you to feel the ability to be able to go through that learning journey, make mistakes, and come out on the other side unscathed. However, at some point, and probably at a few points, I need to test your actual learning, right? I'm going to need to see what you know. And we have to stop and do this to see if all of that practice is actually taking hold. Now, if this work is later missing, you will have a 0 in the grade book immediately. However, you can reassess on any learning target or destinatum. Destinatum being target, goal, or destination in Latin. You can reassess on any of those. You will not, however, this is important, receive the exact same assignment or questions, and you must message me. More is given on that later. However, it is important to know that anytime I'm actually testing your understanding and grading for that, for your knowledge and looking at accuracy, you can reassess. Well, there are some more things to know. I don't grade in terms of points. Mind blown, right? I know, it's crazy, but I don't really assign points to things. Sometimes you may see points assigned to things just randomly because that's left in there by accident from an old assignment, or, well, frankly, because I have to put them in to get them in the grade book, right? But in reality, I am not grading you based off of points. I'm assessing you on a rubric, on a scale of 1 to 4, and we'll look at that scale. And this is wonderful because your grades are no longer based on points. You know, oh, I missed questions 4 and 5, I lost 10 points. No, they're based on your knowledge. How did you answer questions 4 and 5? What were you actually thinking? Well, can I see where your mistakes were and the breakdown came in? Or, you know, were they silly mistakes because everything else around it was right on point? And then I don't count them against you at all. So by being able to base your grades on your actual knowledge, then when I assess you, I'm looking at these overall indications of where you are in mastering your destinata or your learning goals. This is called standards-based or mastery-based grading. Now, those are two different grading systems. We're not going to go into that, but for our purposes, I am going to use both names interchangeably. So your learning targets or destinata. It is important to note that all assessments, everything I give you tied in for accuracy and understanding, go back directly to your destinata. And those specific unit or chapter destinata go back directly to our overarching learning goals, which are those larger categories in the gradebook, such as grammar and translation. And really, I tie in higher order thinking skills as well. Because to get a high score on any specific target and to get a high score overall in the class, you must think critically. This is based off of research. In reality, we as teachers do not want to produce learners who think on a basic level. Do you want to be basic? Don't think so, right? You want to be a deep, critical thinker. You want to understand things and know things and be able to express them and apply them, to analyze, evaluate, and create. Remembering and understanding simply isn't enough, and it's most certainly not enough in today's world. So as part of this course and as part of every assessment, you will have to not only show me the factual information of remembering and understanding, such as recalling facts and basic concepts, explaining ideas and concepts, but you'll also have to use information in new situations, so you won't get the exact same sentence to translate that you got before. You'll need to be able to analyze and draw connections among ideas or pick something apart and explain it. You'll need to evaluate and create with it. To get a high score on any target, you must think critically. Here is an example, and this is in your syllabus as well, of a generic form of the rubric I grade you against for every single assessment. So you could plug in any particular learning target or destinatum here, and you could see how it would fit through the levels. And this generic rubric is constantly available to you in the course syllabus. So if you ever need to refer to it, it's there. But as you can see, a basic level of understanding receives a score of a 2.0 to 2.25. You'll see the gradebook equivalent of that momentarily. But these are just foundation information things like memorization and definitions. And you have to show 90 to 100% accuracy to be able to get that 2 or 2.25. Developing would be between basic and proficient. So you're showing all of the basic skills and some proficient skills. So I'm going to skip up to proficient. Proficient is where I want all of you to be on every target, at least at proficient. It would be great if you could hit this ninja level advanced mastery up here. Let's talk about proficient. That's a score of a 3 on my rubric, and it's your target learning destinatum. It is the target destinatum as stated, without breaking it down into sub-targets, what I need you to be able to know, do, explain, etc., right? And this will always involve some kind of higher order thought process, such as analysis, explanation, or interpretation. And again, you have to have shown 90 to 100% accuracy in the other levels below it in order to be able to get to this. So you'll have questions that are at this basic level on an assessment. You'll have questions maybe at this developing level, and then you'll have questions at the proficient level, and then questions at this higher experienced and advanced level. And each time you need to show me in each set that you can work your way up this pyramid of thought and that you have those higher order thinking skills and know the topic that well that you can apply it critically, evaluate it, create with it. So that's advanced. If you want a 100% on anything in my course, you're going to need to be able to show me everything at the bottom of that pyramid all the way up to the top of interpretation and evaluation in unfamiliar situations, including creation. So you're going to need to be able to not only relay facts and then explain them and then apply them and analyze examples of them, but you're going to need to be able to also interpret and evaluate and possibly even create using the skills or knowledge from the lower levels. And I'm gonna throw something at you you've never seen. These should always be extremely unfamiliar situations or real world applications. So what does this look like in the grade book? You're probably like, okay, that's good and well, but what's my grade gonna look like? Well, I really don't want you focused on grades, but I understand that to some extent you're going to be, regardless of how I set up my grading system. So here's a scale that shows you rough percentages for what each level translates to in your standard grade book. You can fall in between scores, so it's not just a 95 or a 100. You can have a 97 or a 98. And that is up to my judgment of the work you have shown me and your knowledge based upon the destinatum at hand and everything that you've shown across that assessment. Some other things to understand that are different in my course. Assessments focus on specific destinata. So you're going to always know exactly what target or destinatum or objective that you're working on. And usually there won't be more than one or two at a time, except for larger assessments like the midterm and final. So if an assessment does have more than one destinatum, or something that I'm assessing you on, then I'm going to give you more than one grade. It makes no sense for me to give you a grade for 2 or 3 or 4 different targets all combined into one, because then you have no idea what that grade actually represents, which of those targets you've actually mastered and which ones you have not. You have to go in and analyze every single question to try and figure it out. And do you really want to do that? No, of course you don't. Nobody does. So I'm going to do that work for you and tell you where you are by assessing each individual destinatum. For example, right? If I wanted to assess both vocabulary and your grammatical accuracy on sentences on a chapter quiz, then I'm going to give you 2 scores, 1 for each skill. Doing it as the composite, again, makes no sense because you don't know what that score means. Which target have you actually mastered? Which one haven't you? If you get like an 80%. Who knows? Maybe they were both 80%, right? Maybe you're developing in both. That would be developing on the scale. Or maybe you've hit advanced mastery in one, but you're at basic in the other. We would need to then address your basic skill. So I'll always separate them. Here's an example of a quiz so that you can see how I separate these. Now, this particular scholar scored the same score in both of his noun and verb grammar targets. However, it was more than possible, and most scholars and students scored differently on each of them, right? Depending on where they were stronger. And this gives you and me a very specific idea of where you need to go, because learning is a journey. What do you need to do next? Where do you need to improve, if anywhere? So to sum up, to get a high score on any target, you must think critically. So I'm actually going to make you really, really learn the material and very thoroughly. You're going to have to work your way up this pyramid and show me that you truly understand everything that comes with the topic, including, right, analyzing, evaluating, and creating. Your scores, though, are based upon that rubric and your overall mastery. You have to work your way up, but your knowledge determines your score. That is the most important thing. Not points, not some crazy percentages, but your knowledge. And here is a bright side to all of this. You might be thinking, whoa, this system is crazy. What is this lady thinking? But here you go. You can reassess on any assessment. So anything I take up for accuracy and understanding, you can reassess on until the end of the semester. Quizzes? Yeah. Test? Yes, please. papers, projects, discussions. Oh my, of course. You get a reassessment. You get a reassessment. Everybody gets a reassessment. Sorry, guys. I had to. But seriously, anybody can reassess on any assessment. So how do you take advantage of this magical system? Well, you have to complete a reassessment reflection, which you can find in additional resources. Email me this reassessment reflection following all of the instructions. And then I will take that, look at it, look at your assessment, and determine the next appropriate step for you to take. Whether it is some more study on your part and then just send you a reassessment, or if that is actually that you may need some tutoring or additional resources and learning and then a reassessment. But I will take ownership of sending you the next steps as long as you take the initial one of completing the reassessment reflection and sending it to me. So keep in mind, you may reassess as many times as needed until you feel like you've shown whatever the highest level of mastery is you can reach or meet of your ability. We do unfortunately have to pay attention to the end of the semester deadline because again, schools, grades, those things. So please, please, please reassess sooner rather than later. Plus, if you reassess right after you know you did not do well on something, and you'll always know because you'll always be provided with the answers right away. If you do it sooner rather than later, you can correct misunderstandings for the future. And then that allows you to continue to learn the material and learn it in a deeper, fuller way. This is particularly important for language because all of our skills will build. So please, sooner rather than later. But again, the big idea is you should be assessed upon your knowledge and the growth of that knowledge over time, not on points or a one-time score. We all learn at different rates, and learning is a journey, and sometimes it takes multiple attempts to learn a topic or skill. And last, I hope you guys agree with me that we should always strive to learn deeply and think critically. We don't want to be basic. On that note, I'm out, and good luck with the course. Bonum fortunam.